Question: is there anyone at all who remembers that there is a currently ongoing investigation into January 6th and the misdoings around that with regard to Orange Man Bad going on in the Congress right now? Because I didn't until a couple of days ago when I discovered that they have released a report, which really brings me back to old times. I mean, I remember when I was a wee lad of just 3 or 4 years ago, exactly how monumental the Mueller report was to mainstream media. And this particular report seems a bit more muted in some respects, though the contents of it seem to be quite familiar. Because what is involved in this report, you might ask? Well, it's just normal backdoor political dealings of Trump pushing his ideas and trying to get through his agenda and what he wants to happen through. And he made phone calls, which seems to be omnipresent in every single scandal that Donald Trump has. He's always making phone calls to people and explaining what he wants to happen as opposed to what he doesn't want to happen, which, you know, to me might seem something quite innocuous, but to the media is proof of utter malice and malcontent and crimes. When in reality, all of these examples are things which either happen in the political space on a near daily basis, and if you're counting all of the political space, literally every hour, or are simply innocuous musings of Trump trying to get people on his side, which is not illegal as far as I understand. In terms of this exact report, there doesn't seem to be all that much around January 6th, well, at all. There's no evidence here to suggest that January 6th was planned, or they try to coordinate Bannon with that, saying that he was alluding to it in the past by saying that the Biden administration won't get in on January 6th and that we're going to have a plan to stop it, which, you know, was pretty clearly a metaphor from what he was saying, and he didn't say he was going to kill Biden in his sleep, he just meant the presidency, which would of course be figurative, as a presidency cannot be killed literally. But of course, all of this evidence, and the dearth of evidence with regard to January 6th itself, will not stop the mainstream media or anyone on the left, partisan Democrats, most particularly, from continuing to claim that Donald Trump was performing an insurrection on January 6th, because, as I have stated multiple times in the past, the theory preempts the facts. And in this case, the theory that Donald Trump is an evil orange man bad and is going to take over the country through undemocratic, revolutionary means preempts any evidence to or against that particular point. And so, you will see many people lauding this report around as hard and fast evidence of exactly what they were trying to claim. And this is no better seen than in a Guardian article talking about it, while of course, slightly mentioning the fact that none of this is going to go anywhere at all because the House has already given up on it themselves. I mean, they've already started saying that they're not going to be enforcing many subpoenas, and that the objections that Trump has had to certain subpoenas have been basically upheld without even a fight, because they're just not going after them about it. And this shouldn't be particularly surprising, because even if they got these subpoenas through, by and large, they're not going to find all that much anyway. As is fairly evident from what they already have found, there was nothing here to suggest that there was any coordination of the January 6th event at all outside of the feds that were there, of course, where you'll find many co-conspirators who remain unindicted for reasons that we simply cannot explain here. No, all of this seems to be more centered around the election, and this should be for fairly obvious reasons, as even January 6th, the protest that was there, and by extension, the riot which occurred in the aftermath, was spurred on by the election, particularly the fraud in the election, which 56% of Americans believe in, including around 30% or so of Democrats at this point. And this has been a rising number as time has gone on, and it shouldn't be surprising as to why that would be the case, considering that evidence has been continually mounting to the idea that there is problems in the 2020 election. I mean, we could talk about the Arizona audit again. I won't go into it in too great a detail, but 50,000 votes is above 10,000 votes, and in one county, that's a fairly good idea that is actually red. It should be fairly indicative of that election and the integrity of said election. Other things have been happening in other places. Many different states have been pushing for audits of their own elections, in fact, which is a good thing. Audits are good for the most part. And on top of that, many states have also been pushing for election integrity laws, which is frankly the more important thing. Whereas the audit is simply the impetus for doing it, the actual action itself, actually putting into practice laws which prevent what happened in 2020 from happening again, is actually the important part. And this should be understood by everyone here. That's the point of the audits in the first place, which is to be understood. But of course, none of these people are ever going to accept it, because theoretically, no one should believe these things, or only partisan Republicans should. In fact, only 30% of the populace actually believes it. This, of course, being according to the same people who thought Ohio was going to be a toss-up, which is quite funny. I mean, you'll see many people decry some of the statistics I've stated in this video by saying they come from Rasmussen, which is bad because they believe that Trump is going to win. But these same people will then go to places like Quinnipiac or Monmouth, who in the 2020 election technically predicted that Biden would win, but predicted that Biden would win in a way that doesn't even closely resemble the election itself, whereas Rasmussen was only barely off. It's by about half a point. Rasmussen was off from their polling to the final election results, whereas if you compare many of the polls that were predicting Ohio was a toss-up, and which now continue to have a market level of credibility, even among people on the right, it's simply absurd to compare these two. Yes, Monmouth, Quinnipiac, friggin' CNBC, CNN polling got the binary choice of Biden or Trump right. But if you look at it at any deeper level, they are completely and totally wrong by a large degree higher than Rasmussen was off, because Rasmussen predicted a squeaker, and Quinnipiac predicted a landslide. Well, guess what? It was a squeaker, and that is the accurate perception of the election. And I will insist that they are continuing to show the American populace, particularly in this case likely voters, fairly accurately. Perfectly? No, of course not. That's not how polling works. But well enough to be trusted to some extent. And that's where I'm going to leave you guys off. If you enjoyed that video, do in fact subscribe down below and check me out on other platforms. I'm on BitChute, I'm on Odyssey, I'm on Rumble, I'm on Brighteon, and I'm also on Gab, Minds, and Getter. If you want to check me out there, all of those links are down in the description. I suggest you go check it out. Also, check out breakingonthedaily.locals.com for that community. I'm KelKidman, this is Breaking on the Daily, and I'm out.